Okay, so my name is Blaze, and this practice is called non-attachment. And the short version of it is that I believe we're going to explore multiple perspectives. I believe in an integral approach, um, which means that we are not attached to one spiritual approach, one spiritual perspective, one spiritual practice, that we have a broad and open, full spiritual life that consumes more and more aspects of reality and aspects of our life. So each time I like to juxtapose or blend different elements of relationship and consciousness and all of the things that I teach together to form a coherent whole. So we're going to do that again today. I can't remember exactly what I did last time, but each time it's a little bit different. So the format of this is that we're going to start with a meditation. I'm going to propose a theme of practice, a way of practicing, a way of looking at one quality of consciousness, and I'll take questions and work with people as it arises. And then we will shift our focus to another facet of life that coexists and explore that as well. Same procedure. I'll share the theme and then we will work through it together. Okay. Any questions before we get started any further?
Um, mm, my friend Matt is going to be late 2 minutes, so I don't know if you start meditation, if you manage to let her in. She just wrote to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Um, I'll seamlessly let this person in without them feeling like they're missing anything. And it'll be all good. Any other questions before we get started? Okay. So as always, we're just going to start by grounding ourselves, that when we listen or practice, we want to do it in a grounded way. So I close my eyes, take some deeper breaths, and each time I exhale, I can sink more into the weight of my body. As I focus more and more on the weight, the fullness of my body, I can feel gravity just pulling me down into the earth. And I can relax physically into this, relax into the pull of gravity. And welcome to you, Meg. Welcome. We're just getting started. So I can feel the movement of my sensations. I shift my focus again. I can feel the movement of my sensations, emotions, and thoughts. That my nervous system is always in flow. The energy of my nervous system is always moving, always changing. And I am aware. The reason that I can feel my body and witness my thoughts is because there is awareness. And I can shift my focus again to this sense of space. in the awake space of awareness. And again, maybe we just take some moments to relax, to sink into all of these levels of our experience which coexist. My body is heavy and full. Gravity is pulling me to the ground. My nervous system is fluid, a constant, perpetual motion. And awareness is spacious. And as we go on, you're welcome to stay in an eyes closed meditation, but I also invite that you can open your eyes, take in people that are in the group or me, whatever you see on your screen. You can engage with these themes with your eyes open as well. So again, in case you didn't hear my breakdown of what this practice is about, or to review it, I like to juxtapose different qualities of consciousness. It's very important to me. And today we're going to look at two qualities of consciousness and how they fit together. And the first is the impersonal quality, and the second is the personal quality. So we're going to do a inquiry or a meditation practice together as a group about the impersonal quality of consciousness. And the vehicle that we're going to use to do that is to look at all the phenomenon of our experience, all the different aspects of our experience, and see if it takes effort or if we have a choice, if there's any will involved in the creation of this experience. So this is something that we can think about, but more importantly, this is something, the inquiry is something we know, we come to the answer by feeling it, by looking directly at the phenomenon itself. So we just begin together. I talk about our bodies and the pull of gravity. So again, we kind of go back through the meditation. We see, is gravity something that I'm doing, or does it happen on its own? Do I have a choice whether there is gravity or not? And I would describe gravity as a force that's acting on me. I'm just witnessing something that's already happening. I don't have any personal control over whether gravity is happening or not. And so when you have this inquiry, when you notice this, I'm assuming it's true for you as well, there is a subtle relaxation that happens from noticing that you don't have control over it. It's as if the force will act on you more when you recognize that it's already happening. Again, gravity is happening on its own. When we bring our attention to this, it's almost like we feel this force act on us more. And just so that we're all coming along on this journey together on the same page, just, is that true for you, or does it feel different? This one's pretty easy. It's going to get more maybe challenging as we progress. Okay. So this impersonal quality is universal. It's available. It's something that we can recognize in all qualities of experience. So we're going to make the same inquiry. We're going to look at the sensations of our body. Again, are the sensations of your body something that you're doing? We just come to rest for a moment and witness the sensations in our body. Can you start or stop sensations from happening? When your sensations move or change, do you know what they're going to change to? Or are you witnessing a movement like gravity that occurs on its own? And again, just see what you notice when I invite this. Do you make your sensations happen? Again, for me, I emphasize the witnessing of a phenomenon which I do not have control over. It requires no effort, can't be stopped. I don't have a choice over whether I have sensations or not. And it's my body, but in this inquiry, I don't have any control over it. And again, I invite just for you, does it feel like that or is it different? What happens when I suggest that we can focus on our sensations in this impersonal way? And if you want to share about this, please just go ahead and speak.
I find that the sensations just happen and I don't have control over them, but where I put my attention and how I attend does have an impact on what sensations occur.
Right. And we will get to this. The where you put your focus. But again, for a moment, we leave that aside just for a little bit and just notice, oh, it's all happening on its own. It's really important what you say about focus, because we're going to actively use our focus a lot. But for now, we step back and just witness the pure movement of sensations. Anyone else before we move on? I have lots of chance to share your experience. We do the same thing with our emotions. And I just notice how I feel emotionally in my body right now. Another way of saying that is I'm discovering the emotions that are already present. I don't make emotion happen. I discover the feelings that are here now. I don't have any control over what those feelings are as I sit here in silence. Because like gravity, and because like my sensations, my emotional energy moves and exists on its own. I can't start having emotions. I can't stop having emotions. So again, it's my body. These are my feelings, but they are being generated without any effort. It doesn't take any effort to have emotions. And again, I invite, how is it for you to hear me say this? Is it like that for you or is it different? Again, as we contemplate this, we just keep absorbing ourselves in this perspective, in this inquiry.
I noticed by just watching what I can become aware of, like gravity or the circulation sensations or emotion, I become calmer and calmer inside of me. It's like leaning back inside of me, and even enjoying more this watching perspective.
Beautiful. Right, and just as you speak, Kristen, everyone notices the emotional response that we have to that, whatever it is, as we're listening to our emotions, whatever response we have to what Kristen says or me, we don't choose that. We just discover the feelings that are arising after that is shared. Again, to discover this, we're becoming more and more present to how, like the mechanics of this moment, how does this moment actually occur and move and exist? And we can do the same thing with our mental world. We shift our focus again to their thoughts. Just like gravity or the sound of my voice, you only witness thoughts that already exist. You don't have a choice over the thoughts that exist. So we can make an example. This is my favorite way to invite this. I'm going to ask you a question where you're going to make a choice mentally. And we're going to watch, how does that choice come into form? How do you act? What does it mean to actually make a choice? And so it's about 10 o'clock. We'll be done about 11. So after this group, I'm going to take us all out for lunch. And I'd like you to choose, are we going to go for Vietnamese food? Do you want to go for Vietnamese food or do you want to go for pizza? And watch how the choice that you make that is personal to you, watch how it arises in you. Did you choose the choice or did you just witness the arising of a choiceless response? And when we really pay attention to our mental world, we don't know what we're going to think until it has already happened. We have no control over the thoughts that occur, even when they take the form of I or choice or have a very personal quality to them. And again, as I say all this, is it like that for you or is it different? And you're welcome to speak. And you'll know if you are going to speak because you find a thought arising and then you find yourself thinking and speaking and sharing your experience. And I take all of your silence to mean that you are watching your experience very closely, very presently witnessing yourself. And we do the same thing again with awareness. We also have this spacious awareness. I shift my focus. I notice that I'm aware. My question is, can you start or stop being aware? Does it take any effort to have awareness? Do you have any say over whether there is awareness or not? And it's your awareness, it's personal to you. And yet, I believe, I experience, you don't have any control over it. Again, just for anyone to share, is it like that for you? Or it's different. I wouldn't want anybody to feel like I'm leading them in a direction that doesn't feel true for you. Again, if you're unclear about this or unsure, just please challenge or share your experience. And if not, I'm happy to just keep going. Yeah, go ahead.
It feels like there's something slightly different about thought to the others. The others just happen. The sensation, emotions, awareness. With thought, some thoughts just happen, but it also feels like there's the I thought, there's the person that speaks, there's a possibility to at least have the illusion of having control over thought, and it may be an illusion, but it feels like there's the possibility for that illusion in a way that there isn't with the other three. So it seems slightly different. I'm finding that interesting to notice.
Right. Absolutely. And in the second half, we're going to talk about why, and we're going to explore why that illusion is important. It's a very important illusion. But again, we test it. And if I ask you the question, I don't know, any I question that I can evoke an I answer out of. What do you think about all of this? And just notice the I thoughts that are generated. How do they actually arrive? What is the pathway by which these I thoughts arrive that you may take ownership over? Did you know what they were going to be before they happened? Or is every I thought a surprise? Is every I thought a discovery of some experience, just like any other experience that is becoming manifest, that is arising into the present moment? Is the mechanics of thinking really different, even when there is this I quality, from the sounds that you hear or the sensations that you have? And how do you feel when I invite this? What do you experience?
Can I just respond?
Mhm.
When you ask a question, the thoughts just boom, they're just there. But it still feels that there's a I can choose to speak slowly. There's something there that feels slightly different from that. When they ping in response, that's exactly the same as feelings. Then there's this sort of ability to direct, or at least a felt ability to direct. It may not actually be there, but it feels slightly different to the other aspects.
Yeah, and I agree. I experience this too, right? And I hear that it's like this for you. And when we hold this inquiry, again, just what is it like for you to notice this? How does it affect you to be having this inquiry, to be noticing this different quality? Like, ask maybe in other words. Maybe Ellie, you want to answer that before I go on? I'd love to hear you follow through.
It's bringing up some fear in me around speaking my authentic experience. That's what I'm noticing. and speaking it into a group of people I don't know. So I'm finding it both interesting and potentially enlightening, and also the felt experience is fear.
All right, and maybe just you and I, we take a moment just to be present to this fear, that it's welcome here. And I won't press you any further on this. I hear what you're saying. And I heard you say earlier that we have this ability to move our focus. We can focus on different things. And again, in half an hour, I'm going to tell you something completely different about that. But for now, we just notice, we become aware of the movement of our focus. Like, for example, if I say, don't pay attention to how your knees feel right now, you notice the movement of your focus. And my question is, do you have a choice over where your focus moves? Or do you just discover where your focus has moved next in real time as it happens?
I like all of your questions because they really slow me down, and well, to answer it, it's no, I have no choice. It's yeah, whether what I think or where my attention, my focus is wandering. The only choice I have is to discover where my focus is at, and it feels pretty much like looking into a vast room and discovering whatever you're asking for. Then I'm looking for emotion or a emotional thing inside of me, or a thought, or bodily sensation, and but it's a discovery. It's already there, and even when you ask questions where potentially answers come, I really like what Ellie was pointing out, like that you get you've got the illusion that you have a choice, but even with these questions, at least I for myself experienced that I don't know what is coming, or even when I decide I wanna put this, I want to take this bottle or anything, it was already inside of me before I only became aware of it, and then I maybe took the bottle. But it's always discovering. It's not making, at least in my experience.
Beautiful. And so in the past, I've described this, that we have two descriptions of will. We have my will, like what I want, where I want to go for lunch. And then in some theology or religion, they have God's will. And God's a charged phrase. But how do we describe the movement of life that I'm not doing? So there's my will, and then there's this impersonal will, everything that moves without me. I just shift my perspective. The things that I see are moving. The things that I hear are moving. The things that I think are moving. The things that I feel are moving. Gravity is a movement. The existence of awareness happens on its own. What is the force, the impersonal force, that is bringing my experience to life, that has created this experience? I can't stop it. I didn't start it. So it is often described as God's will. And whether you personalize it as God or you call it impersonal, and this is something that we can recognize or attune to, we can become cognizant that we are witnessing an impersonal flow, that the things outside of my body are moving and I have no control over them, and the things inside my body are moving and I have no control over them. Again, moreover, I have no choice whether I have an experience or not. I have no choice over whether there is consciousness or existence either. How does that all feel for you? Just to consider, to contemplate, to rest into? What is the effect on that on you?
I'm noticing a sensation in my belly that's like simultaneously kind of liberating and terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah, and when I hear you speak and when I hear Ellie speak, I really feel the call to shift us to the other perspective. So this is part of why I think integral practice or a multi-perspective practice is really important. That we, in whatever way, for whatever reason, in our own way, this takes us to a kind of edge in ourselves. Having no control, having no self, being impersonal will take us to a kind of edge. And one way to deal with that, being at that edge, is just to go harder into this impersonal perspective. But I believe, actually, that if we can shift and meet this edge with our humanity, that the results in the process will actually be kinder. So before I move on, I just want to see anyone else if they just want to share their experience of this. And in a moment.
Mostly, oh sorry, mostly feels really liberating.
Right.
Yeah, you can feel some joy arising.
Beautiful. And maybe we just draw some conclusions from this experience, like beliefs, ways that this impersonal reality, conclusions we can draw from it, and just tell me if these feel true. Everything has a right to exist. Everything is created to exist. There is no problem because there's no choice. There's only one thing, and it's what's happening. If I don't have a choice in it, I can't be making a mistake. I don't have any responsibility. I'm not responsible for the good things. I'm not responsible for the bad things. Everything is just as it is. Everything is okay. It couldn't be a different way. It's just, it's things are the way they are. I have no say in it. And maybe that feels empowering. Maybe it feels challenging. Maybe it feels some other way that I can't imagine for you. What do you notice? Do those conclusions feel accurate?
I feel like I don't know if liberation is the right word, but it feels so much more open and available, and like so much more to discover when I sat with that. You know, even just when we were talking about God's will or impersonal will is, and in these statements, there's so much more to discover then, because there's like this I almost feel like completely contracted around when we were talking about, you know, sometimes I could, when I felt the difference of the two, you know,
Mhm.
like how I normally am, and then when you're speaking to it, I felt this expansion. So then it felt like there's so much more possibility here because I'm not so contracted around this me that thinks that everything that's thinking is me. But I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's beautiful to listen to, like in your eyes, in your face, the openness that you describe. I really get a sense of that.
Yeah.
And just to invite to any of us who want to pursue this, it's a deep attention to the mechanics of what is happening right now. That we don't think about this perspective, we just become really absorbed in the actual experience of what is happening. We're not choosing between phenomenon, we're not working so hard on our preferences, we're just looking at the way things are, the way life is coming into form. And we can learn to just pay deep attention. We can learn to pay deep attention. This is the contradiction, obviously. If I say we have no choice, and then I also say that we can learn to pay deep attention, how could both of those things be true? So with that, again, maybe we make the transition. At the same time, we have a personal experience. That my thoughts and feelings, my sensations, my experience of life is personal to me. And one place that's really easy to feel this is when we consider our motivation for being here today in this group. Why are you here? Just invite you to contemplate this, to feel it. Just what brings you to this group today? And how is this session that we're having impacting your motivation? How's it affecting you? Getting what you wanted, or are you not getting what you wanted? And see what you notice. I'd love to hear you share and work with anyone who wants to share about their motivation, whether they're liking this experience or not.
Can you ask the question again, please?
Yeah, Kristen, what motivates you to be here today? And are you getting what you hoped you'd get? Is this helping you in your motivation?
The wish to develop myself as my motivation to be here today, and to become more and more what who I am, and this includes manifesting, living this felt sense of me, and yeah, and yes, well, I enjoy to let all your questions sink in, and discovering what it brings up in me. So yes, I'm getting why I'm here for.
Great. And so we just take a moment to just honor your personal experience, your personal motivation, the personal emotional response that you have, or the mental response that you have to everything that's happening, the living humanity that is you. And as we feel that, we can recognize a moment ago we described all of this stuff as impersonal, and that's still true. But the impersonal reality is not in conflict with the personal reality. Recognizing the impersonal flow of life or nature of reality isn't going to stop or interrupt you being you. They're not in conflict with each other.
I agree, and still, I didn't find the spot where I could bring on my, I don't know the English word for it, but earlier when you were saying, when you were describing Merkmale, like we are not the impersonal character of experience. You were saying we are not, or you even said, I'm not responsible for the good things which happen, and also not for the bad things which happen. And exactly at that moment, the illusionary self inside of me was contradicting and was saying, "Oh no, of course you are sometimes responsible for bad things to happen."
Right.
So yeah, and I found this very interesting. At the same time, I can see that this is difficult for me to describe, but inside of me there is this one part who says who wants to contradict and say no, there are things where you are responsible for because you said something or did something, and at the same time something says yes, it's true what Blaise said, you are not, it's impersonal, it's because it's already there and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad.
Right. So let's see if we can reconcile this, because I believe I'm inviting you to hold both. So again, everything happens on its own. We can just keep returning to this perspective, your thoughts, feelings, and sensations, the experience of being aware. You can learn over time. This can get clear or in a moment, it can get clearer and clearer and clearer. And I just want you to think about someone that you care about deeply, that you feel responsible for. Your children, your spouse, the planet. And notice how we can feel responsible and care very deeply as human beings. We can care about ourselves. We can care what we have for lunch. We can care about our children and families. We get to care. We get to take responsibility. We get to make efforts to make the world a better place. And we can feel this in the energy of our body, in our hearts, and through our whole nervous system. And we've already established that the energy of the nervous system moves on its own. We can go back there anytime. And yet, this impersonal experience has coalesced into this sense of I care. I care. It matters to me. And my question is just first, how is it for you to feel that you care, to relate to this? But also, how is it to consider, to hold this dual reality that life is both impersonal, but that it also expresses itself as this personal quality of care, of desire, of pain, of contraction, of avoidance, of all the other things that you experience in your life.
This is very complex, and I don't know if my English skills, will hold on to that. To me, it feels, when you just, I could feel as well the impersonal and the personal character or flavor to experience, and these two aspects don't contradict themselves inside of me, and at the same time there's still say when ego has taken over inside of me, there's still like a third thing, like when I feel responsible because I've shouted at my son, and that was unfair, and I wasn't right to do that, and or I just see how he suffers because of my behavior,
Mm-hmm.
then it's as if I've completely forgotten about the personal and the impersonal
Right.
of that. And
Right.
yeah, it's like two separate, it's like, yeah, that's true. But the other thing is also very often my reality. That's how
Right.
life feels to me.
Right. And we can acknowledge that the impersonal reality or God's will or whatever we describe is not getting you out of that experience. It doesn't keep us from having those experiences. So the experience that everything's okay, that I don't have a choice, also manifests as the very human experience that you're talking about. That we will continue to have human experiences, no matter how much we recognize that life is impersonal.
It feels a little bit as if there's a trap where I'm fighting myself in again and again. Because one part of inside of me thinks, like, agrees like 100% with you. It's true. It's true what we are saying. I completely agree, and at the same time there's this yes, but if I've done something or said something which I judge afterwards it's wrong, I suffer, and I don't want to suffer.
Yeah.
And when I'm standing at this point, like, or if I am this point, like, I don't want to suffer, then I completely forget about personal and impersonal nature of experience. I don't care in this very moment.
Mm-hmm. And
Because I suffer and I don't want to suffer. Suffering hurts. I don't like suffering.
And this is where the rubber meets the road, to say, if you know that expression, is that at the intersection of these two places. There's pain and suffering, and I would say even more the overwhelming nature of trauma, of life. For me, life is inherently overwhelming, and we cannot tolerate everything that happens. So on one hand, we can say everything is okay as it is. Everything has a right to exist. But in the human lived experience, that means being overwhelmed by life and being forced to resist, forced to contract, forced into the experience of managing and resisting what actually exists.
That doesn't make my mind very happy to hear that.
Mm-hmm. But one way to consider this is that we use this impersonal perspective as a resource that helps us be with the human reality. So maybe as we contemplate this together, we just see, do I have a choice over my thoughts? Do I have a choice over my feelings? Does it take any effort to have a body? Does it take any effort to have consciousness at all? And so we use this pure and absolute relaxation right at this place of human life where we feel tension, that our lack of control becomes a resource, a way to slow down, become more present, and relax in to the challenge of being human. And just as I suggest, just see what happens in you.
It sounds theoretic, like I recognize that because that's what I'm doing in my work with my clients too. I explain, like, like what could one person do in a moment of overwhelm, and at the same time, from my own experience, I know that everything I explain is grounded in my experience, and it might not work for somebody else. And at best, it can give the other person like a point where the person for her or himself can start to pay attention to his or her own experience. And because it's like when life narrows itself down, like in a stressful moment, there's less awareness, and oneself, I believe oneself has to catch him or herself exactly at that point where there's still awareness, and where because awareness is still there, the person can take a decision what to do next and what is actually possible.
So,
But yeah.
so I just invite just to everyone in the group, as you share this, we can also use the other strategies. So let's use our capacity for choice. Let's slow down, actively soften into our experience, actively relax, turn our attention to the flow of gravity. We can also do things just as much as we can do nothing. We can do things, we can use this experience of having choice to orient towards all the qualities of consciousness that bring resource and peace. Again, I feel gravity. I relax actively. I still experience that I have the capacity to relax into gravity. And in exercising my choice, I'm not betraying the impersonal nature of reality. I'm supporting it. So this is my living response to you. Sometimes we shift our focus to the impersonal quality. Sometimes we decide to go for a walk or call a friend or relax our body. And these two things fit perfectly together. So when I suggest that we can actively, just to everyone in the group, that we can actively relax, does that feel true for you? Does it feel like you can actively relax your body? That you can choose to become aware of gravity, and in doing so, sink deeper into the ground, feel the weight of your body. So we use choice to our advantage, and we use no choice to our advantage. They're both true, they're both occurring, and they fit perfectly together. Again, I just check in maybe from other people I haven't heard from. How does this all sound and feel to you now? Where do you land? Where do you arrive at when I invite you to consider these two facets of life?
I can share. For me, everything usually comes down to identification, actually. If I am identified with the thoughts, so I believe them to be true, and the situation, just like, some programming conditioning comes up, I may not be aware even in the moment, but I'm identified with it, and I just follow some mechanism. So if I, in a way, step back to who I really am, just I am awareness. So I am disidentified. I can calm down my body by being present with the body, with the emotions. But what actually falls off is identification. And I'm just coming back to my true nature, just being the awareness here, right? And the human experience then is not the dramatic, because actually, if I'm identified, it's always a roller coaster, and it's just driving crazy. And me too. So I guess for me, the most important is this identification with our thoughts, that we believe what they are telling us, that something should be like this or shouldn't be like this. I should be treated like this, or I should have this, anything. Usually connected with I. Yeah, this identification. This is my experience.
That's a great strategy. That's a wonderful and very popular way to relate to this multiple qualities of life. There's awareness, but there's also thinking and thoughts. And what I would point out is that you share words and concepts to express that reality. And so just as much as you can be disidentified with them, they have a place here in communicating with me, that we can't just hide out in awareness, because how would we know what we want to have for lunch? Or how would
But it's not about hiding. I wouldn't say it's about hiding, because, okay, I can have pizza, but I'm not identified with pizza. I'm not identified that if I don't have pizza, then my world is going to crumble. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I may want, to speak to someone. It's important to me, but I'm not identified. It's not like I'm grabbing into this. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
And
understand.
then I have like space, just, okay, let's talk. Yeah, we can talk. I'm flexible. There is like, I think that's the point.
Absolutely.
Awareness, that's what gives me the space. Yeah, I can look at this from a wider perspective.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't suggest that you were hiding. My point is simply to
Yeah, but it
recognize.
might be also hiding. Yeah, everything is fine to me, Yes, it's fine. The
Right.
universe is fine. That's my perspective.
Right, absolutely. And if the truth of us was that we were awareness, if this was the truth, then if that was the whole of the truth of life, then we wouldn't be talking here. There would just be awareness. And this is true for the impersonal reality. This is true for any facet of consciousness that you will ever discover. Anything that you wake up to, it will feel it is true, fundamentally true. And yet, all of the other qualities of consciousness persist. So again, in this context, if we just leave awareness for a second, in this context, I have no choice. I have no responsibility. I don't make anything happen. But I noticed that my lawn hasn't been mowed in a while. And at some point, my wife is going to come up to me and say, you have to mow the lawn. And the right answer, the true answer, is not to say, I have no choice over whether I mow the lawn or not. That's not a real answer. A real answer is, yes, you're right. I'm sorry. I will do it. I've been busy. I've been feeling overwhelmed. And this is not a betrayal of the impersonal nature of reality. They fit perfectly together. So in integral practice, I learn to take on and relate to many aspects of consciousness. In this case, I'm inviting us that we can continue to return, if it feels this way, as Meg described, or as Kristen described, as a kind of a liberation, a freedom, an openness. We continue to return to this openness as we are so attracted to do so. And the impact of this openness is it is going to apply the rules of the impersonal reality to your life. And what I mean is, everything has a right to exist. Everything gets to be here. Everything is created with purpose. This now is the experience of your body. You are placing your human life, your humanity, in this context, meaning you are empowering everything in you, every thought, every feeling, every sensation to come to life and live more. This does not dull perspective. It does not have us move away from the human life. It empowers the human life to happen more. And the way you can think about this is like a ship with a sail. That if you place a ship with a sail and the wind pushes it, this impersonal force, it's going to propel the ship through the sea. Similarly, the impersonal flow of life is a vehicle by which I manifest and express my full potential. If everything gets to exist, that's true for me as a human being. And this is empowering. This is a manifest freedom that everything that ever happens to me is okay. And I learn that as I engage as a human being, this brings this liberation into force as my human life. Saying that there is no problem and then feeling all the problems of my life is to empower me to take on the reality of my human life, not that I get away from it, not that I solve those problems specifically, but that I learn to move through them more freely. So again, notice the thoughts that you have, the feelings that you have, the sensations that you have, the way you feel as a human being when I propose this, just the reaction that you have. And that we notice that consciousness and life is consenting to this. Consciousness says yes to everything that is happening for you right now. At the impersonal level, there is no no. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. Everything that is occurring for you is the yes of life. Whether it's a contraction, whether it's anger, whether it's confusion, whether it's joy, this is the impersonal flow of life. Now, again, I'd love to just hear how this feels for you, what you notice.
I don't know if you ask me, I can say only about that if everything, for me, it's even logical that everything that appears should be here, because otherwise we would be only in errors, right? So, and I think it would be like mayhem here. So no, I think that my feeling is with life that there is like a bigger plan. I have no idea what kind of plan, that everything is there for a reason. I may not see the reason. I usually see the reason when I'm looking back, right? But I think what's for me important is opening to the flow of life. So not like resist it, but seeing it, okay, it should be here. What is it here? Actually, what is it here for me? Because it's not against me. I don't believe that life is against me. But it's usually taking care of me, although I may not like it. Or, you know, the difficulty arises and I may not see it as opportunity. So, but I think that's what makes us grow in a way, internally. Yeah. And also the suffering makes us grow. Yeah.
And I would
want to suffer, so we do something not to suffer, right?
Right.
That's the journey.
Right. And so that I'm just going to offer something to you specifically because you mentioned awareness. Another way to sort of modify this is to say, does awareness have a problem with anything that's happening right now? So this is a very similar inquiry, is that I use this quality of myself to recognize the inherent goodness of life. But if awareness doesn't have a problem, then at this fundamental level, I don't have a problem. And I align myself with the absence of resistance and awareness. And this is very powerful as well. And what I'm suggesting today is slightly different than that, is instead of focusing on awareness specifically, I turn to the fact that life is impersonal. Even awareness is not something that I choose. I don't choose whether I'm aware or not. I don't choose what I hear. I don't choose what I see. There is no part of consciousness which I am active in creating. I can't stop it from happening. I never started it from happening. And if this makes sense to you, if this is something that feels true for you, that you can continue to align yourself with the experience of this. Again, for some people, different facets or different practices are going to make more sense at more time, and that's wonderful. And this is just one of them. This is just one of them. Again, maybe I just ground us again in this one more time. I'm seeing. I'm hearing. I have thoughts, feelings, and sensations. My body is heavy. Gravity is pulling me into the ground. I'm aware. All of this happens on its own. Everything is alive and moving without any effort. And when I notice this, I'm not taking any effort. I become aligned with this effortless force. And I feel the pure freedom of alignment with the impersonal nature of consciousness. And as we deepen in this practice, we learn to integrate or to not be attached solely to this focus, but to also make efforts to improve our lives, to change the world, to be better people, to avoid things that don't feel good. We learn to be human, more fully human. And these are two fundamental aspects of consciousness. It is impersonal and it is personal. And this is like every movie you've ever seen. There's no movie that is fundamentally true. It's all just images. It's all just a flow of light on your screen. And yet every story is personal. You wouldn't watch an impersonal story. So this is the joy of life. This is part of the beauty of life, that it gets to be manifest as impersonal. It gets to be a dream of sorts, a selfless dream. And at the same time, we have the privilege of experiencing existence as a human being in selfhood in a personal quality. And it's because I believe I experience this as the purpose of life, is this dual reality, that I think we learn to align ourselves with both. Both are true. So we're coming towards the end of our time. I'm coming to completion in what I have to share with you, but I leave some space at the end just for your questions or comments, both out of a practical nature, but also just to any of the points that I've shared.
From what you just said, I like the image of the movie. Like I think you said that no movie is true impersonally. It's not true. It's just this mental, it's an image on a screen, but the story feels personal. Like it's like something in us like leans into the story because it feels like we can relate to it, or we like it or we don't like it. Our opinions and our thoughts are coming there. So in aligning to both, I'm just trying to restate it so it can sink in, is by adding that impersonal practice, we don't get so laid heavy with the story, with the parts that we are so, I am more conditioned to pay attention to, which is this is real. This is the real part. So, yeah.
A couple things. So first, yes. And second, if you were in a movie and I kept saying to you, this movie isn't real, I just kept saying that over and over again, you would tell me, I know, be quiet, I'm trying to watch the movie. Like, the purpose of going to a movie is not to leave. The purpose of going to a movie is to watch a movie. Similarly, the purpose of life is not to get out of life. The purpose of life is to experience life. But if you don't know, if you are absorbed in it and you can't see the context, whether it's awareness or this impersonal quality or any of the other higher qualities of life, it's very hard to enjoy. It's hard to recognize the gift that is suffering and life and joy and impermanence when that is all the only context that you experience. So then our spiritual practice is based on avoidance. Our life is based on avoidance and managing risk. This impersonal reality is going to make you take on life more fully. It's going to make you live more. It's not going to get you out of life. And it's actually by living and feeling more that the attachment and these places in which you are contracted are going to resolve themselves. It's not by living less. Living less is not going to get us uncontracted. Avoiding life is not going to get us uncontracted. But unless we have access to something that feels free, that feels fundamentally okay, it's going to be very hard to live more. So again, it can be awareness, it can be, there are many qualities of consciousness and practices that can give us this sense of freedom, like it's really okay to live more. This is one of them. And if it resonates for you, this becomes something that you turn to, that I'm not making anything happen. What are you if you're not making this moment happen? Just maybe stay with me for a minute. If your thoughts occur on their own, if your feelings occur on their own, if your body exists on its own, if you have no choice about any aspect of your experience, what does that leave you with?
It's tricky. um, I guess anything. I mean, limitless possibilities.
It's a great answer. And as much as this is your answer now, this is an inquiry. Like,
Mm.
what is the nature of reality? What am I? What is the nature of experience? That we become on fire for this inquiry rather than just know the answer. We're just really paying attention in this way. And if, again, as I hear you say, limitless possibilities, if there's a draw on you to come back here, then wonderful.
Thank you.
Again, just opening if other people have questions or comments. And what I would invite is if this makes sense to you and feels true and is something that you can work with, wonderful. And if it doesn't, if it's not the approach for you, it's really okay. There are many things that you can focus on. There are many things that can bring you development. And I seek to offer as many as I can. This is just the focus of today. Again, maybe we close the same meditation one more time. I just observe how this moment is coming to be. Do I have a choice over the things I hear? Or am I just witnessing and discovering the next thing that happens? Do I choose my thoughts, or am I just witnessing the next thing that happens? Do I choose my emotions, my body sensations, or am I just witnessing the next thing that happens? Do I make awareness happen, or does it happen on its own? All of life exists on its own, moves on its own, including my sense of self. What am I? What am I that is experiencing this impersonal experience? What am I that is having this experience? This is the inquiry which I share with you today, and I invite you to continue to explore. I will send out a recording of this to you specifically, and I just ask that you don't share it with anyone else. And I heard several times, I think that, or I got the sense that I did a lot of talking, which I normally don't do. So your feedback about my presentation is also welcome. So I will send out an email later today, and thank you for being here and being interested. Bye for now.
Thanks, bye.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.